The quieter you become, the more you can hear. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around Sri Lanka's political landscape. One more month to go. Will Sri Lanka's political landscape change? Will the dynamics change in the next 4 weeks? To discuss all this and more, we've invited 4 guests to our studios this evening as well. And the four happen to be individuals who hold doctorates. Let me quickly introduce them to you. Joining us this evening on the show is Dr. Anil Jayant, the candidate of the National People's Power. Also joining us tonight on the show is Dr. Harsha De Silva, candidate of the Samang Jana Balawegaya. Joining us this evening on the show is Dr. Nalika Gudaheva, candidate of the Sri Lanka Pulujana Peramuna, as well as Dr. Vikram Bahukara, candidate of the United National Party. Let's start off tonight's show with Dr. Nalika Gudaheva, candidate of the Sri Lanka Pulujana Peramuna. Dr. Gudaheva, 9 months ago, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said in a public platform that fertilizer would be given free of charge to all. However, 7 months later, that is far from a reality. On Friday, addressing the Anuradhapur inaugural meeting of the Sri Lanka Pulujana Peramuna, the President says that he will try to address the issues surrounding the fertilizer problem in the country. 7 months down the line, a president who cannot succeed with his pledges, how can he do so with a government which would be appointed following the 5th of August this year? The time starts now.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting us for this program. Shamir, you are asking about a policy decision. When President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, as a presidential candidate, mentioned about giving fertilizer free, he was basically talking about the policy of his government. The policy does not mean that the moment you come to power, the following day you can implement. He took over an economy which was in a dire state. An economy which was thriving in 2015 had gone down with a growth rate of 2.3% by end of 2019. So the kitty was empty when we came in. So there's time that will take to get back on track. And also remember the fact that he came to power, he had to deal with a parliament where the opposition had the majority. So the government was a minority government. We could even pass a budget with a parliament like that. When we attempted to pass certain things, even to pay the bills, we didn't get the support of the opposition. Classic example is the unpaid bills of 240 billion, which are there when we came to power. The suppliers, the local suppliers of this country were waiting to collect their money, 240 billion. And when we wanted to pay those money, the opposition didn't help. That is where the parliament had to be dissolved. So all those things will be done and the policies will be implemented proper once the new government is formed. So we're all waiting till the election is held and the new government will be formed.
However, if the government knew at that time that there was no money in the kitty, there was no money to execute its plans, why did the president make such an announcement, quoting the current Prime Minister as a bait? He says that subsequent to speaking to his brother, Mahinda Rajapaksa, they decided together that fertilizer would be given to all free of charge.
That will be done. That's the intention.
When?
That's the intention. Once the election is over, the budget will be passed. The money will be allocated to the areas where we want the money to go, and agriculture is going to be one of the key areas anyway. I mean, it is basically our policy to be self-sufficient on agriculture. The farmers will definitely have a better say, better attention from the next government. So it will definitely be done when the government is ready.
Dr. Gudaheva, emergency funds were made for infrastructure development during the last couple of months. Cannot the government allocate emergency funds for fertilizer as well? Because Sri Lanka was going through quite a rut during the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of this fertilizer subsidy.
See, when you talk about government, there are development work that has to continue and be finished. So when the previous government started all this infrastructure development, there was a plan. The whole idea was to get this infrastructure ready to support the economic development. When certain projects are not completed, you can't get the best utilization of those projects. So certain areas you have to spend, otherwise the things are half completed, projects are not delivering goods. So certain areas you have to spend money. So that is what you are talking about.
So once appointed to government, hypothetically, the government may say, we are just appointed to the government, give us some time to make ourselves comfortable. So come 2021, let's give the fertilizer subsidy free to all. Would that happen?
No, I think we have to think broader than that. See, when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was preparing for the election, presidency, remember the way he conducted his campaign. He never criticized anybody. He was never critical of the opposition, right? He ran a decent campaign. When he came to power, he expected the support of everybody. In fact, during his speech at Ruangwalisaya, his first national speech, he invited everybody, even the opposition, to support him for the national rebuilding exercise, right? But that didn't come forth. So when that didn't happen, what would he do? I mean, all the previous presidents had the luxury of dissolving the parliament the moment they are appointed. Every other president had that luxury. But thanks to the 19th Amendment, this president couldn't do that. So he tried to deal with the parliament, which had the majority in the opposition, but he didn't get the support. So he had to dissolve the parliament at the first opportunity he got. That was 2nd March 2020. But then we expected the election would be held on the 25th April and the government will be formed in May, but that didn't happen because of Corona. So the question that you're raising...
But don't you think, Dr. Gudeheva, the opportunity availed to individuals like you, who's contesting elections for the first time, has been lost as a result of the elections commissioner announcing elections on a date very abruptly for the 5th of August, when it could have easily been done for the year end. So individuals like you would get a better opportunity to canvass and campaign for a preferential vote at the upcoming election.
It is not the benefit of individuals like us that matter. It is the country that matters. The country needs a stable government. So country needs that stable government to be formed as fast as possible so the president that they selected with vast majority of votes can run the country. 69 lakhs of people, million of people voted for this president. So we must allow him to run the country. So he needs a stable government. It doesn't matter whether I get an opportunity or not. The country is more important.
Because you mentioned that, Dr. Gudeheva, I'm going to pose another question to you before I move to Dr. Vikram Bahukaruratne. The ethos right now that is principally running across social media is about appointing a government, appointing a parliament with a clean slate. You know, Dr. Gudeheva, you have a court case against you right now at the Colombo High Court for misappropriation of 5 million Sri Lankan rupees when you were serving as the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. What would you have to say to the people who would go to the polling booth from the Gampaha district on the 5th of August to vote for you, when you have a great thinking of making sure that the president's hands are strengthened to govern the country?
Very
contradictory, isn't it?
Very simple. Let me explain that. The last government abused power to the extent that all of us were harassed. There were so many court cases which are not justifiable. Now take for example the particular court case that you are referring to me. 5 million misappropriation. What does misappropriation means? Misappropriation means you take money home, you earn money. This 5 million misappropriation that they are talking about is about a sponsorship that was given to train students on stock exchange. Now the case is going on. I don't know how much I can talk about that, but the 11,200 students have been trained at the cost of 480 rupees per student. This is what is coming out in the courts, and the witnesses have already accepted that there is nothing wrong in that. So let's wait for the judgment. But I can tell you one thing: this same case, the SEC conducted domestic inquiry under this government. Domestic inquiries are very easy to prove. The same case, same charges, the domestic inquiry was conducted by none other than former acting Chief Justice Sri Tilakavardhana. The results have come out. The results actually came out in 2017. SEC hid that information. Now that has been released. 12 charges. We are discharged from all 12 charges. So we are waiting for the final court result.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nala Gudeheva, candidate of the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna. As the show goes by, we'll speak more about the government's policies in the run-up to the general elections. We now move our attention to Dr. Vikram Bahukaruratne, candidate of the United National Party. Dr. Karuratne, before speaking about the UNP's policies and the statement that was made by Ranil Wickremesinghe on a YouTube televised interview recently. I want to drag your attention to one of the most key concerns of anyone who will be watching tonight's show. How did Dr. Vikram Karatna, who was the leader of the Navasama Samaj Party, a leftist party, join a liberal party like the UNP? How did that happen?
Well, that has been the advice given by Lenin, Trotsky, and other leaders when a situation of racist violence and fascistic tendency arises in a society. We are asked to work with the liberals to counter the National Socialist or fascistic tendencies and stop the chaos that could be created in the country. Already we see that we are in an unstable situation because there is no agreement about nationalities. Several nationalities are in the country. At the beginning of the independence, there was a unity among the Tamils, Sinhala Muslims, and everybody, and were able to they were compel British to hand over power. But after that, first UNP government continued the agreement, but unfortunately, Bandaranaike brought in Sinhala only Act that created the serious division in the society. And this Sinhala only continues to create instability and the attempt to appease Tamil-speaking minority by 13th Amendment also still incomplete.
Dr. Vikram Karatna, I want to interrupt you for a second here. I was reading through an article which was published on the Daily News on the 25th of February 2019 by you. It was a features article that you did. And you say, after 33 years, JVP today, under the leadership of Andhra Kumara, has emerged as a party defending democracy against fascistic forces. And then you go on to say how in certain areas, now the JVP sees a transformation of attitude in the Tamil National Alliance, and they have undergone that transformation, and JVP is happy about it. If that is the case, you could have joined the NPP and not the UNP. So one might see it as an agenda that Dr. Vikram Karatna has to just get into parliament from the Kaluthara district and not otherwise.
But in this situation, JVP is not still accepted the 13th Amendment. They were the opponents, the most strong opponents to the 13th Amendment, and they resort to terror. And in the terror campaign, I also got wounded. So,
and you mean to say that the UNP was not involved in terror?
But if they want to join and go forward with appeasement, they should have agreed to implement the 13th Amendment and continuation of this in the.
So let me now speak about the statement that UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe made. He says, already hundreds of thousands have lost their employment and their incomes have dropped while the cost of living is increasing. Three-wheel operators do not have an income. Sales have dropped in grocery shops and even the garment factories are closed. Can we live like this for another 6 months? My question to you is, how did Sri Lankans live for the last 4.5 years under dire straits, under economic hardship, with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as at the top of the government at that time?
What I'm trying to say is that there is a fundamental instability in our society. The foundation is not sure because we have not satisfied the minority nationalities, and we have not won the confidence of all people. The equality, the unity is missing. In such a situation, how can you implement any program of
When
development?
major political parties like Rishad Baduddin's party, the Muslim Congress, then the Democratic National Alliance at that time, Sarath Fonseca, have moved away from the UNP, why did you join the UNP?
Now, yes, time to time people make changes,
Right.
but what I am trying to say, the Liberal Party, the real Liberal Party is the UNP still, which can win over the support of these other nationalities as they did earlier and go forward for putting a foundation for
Thank you very
development.
much, Dr. Vikram Baukaranatne, candidate of the United National Party. We now move our attention to Dr. Harsh De Silva, candidate of the Samagi Jana Balawege. Dr. De Silva, one of the slogans that you hear from the Samagi Jana Balawege camp is there are no thieves in our party. It's a clean party. How sure are you that there are no thieves in the Samagi Jana Balawege? There are no central bank bond controversy thieves who are affiliated to the party. How sure is the Samagi Jana Balawege to have a clean set of MPs who would be representing the upcoming parliament?
Thanks for the opportunity. You see, everything is relative, right? So there is, all kinds of people. There are, when you say thief, gradation of thieves, I guess you can say. So I'm not going to be able to give character certificates for everybody in the SJB, but I think in a relative sense, the SJB is cleaner than some of the other parties. So
when you say cleaner, that's also a very subjective term. That means, Dr. De Silva, invariably you're saying there are individuals within our party who does not have a clean slate. And why must the people, if that's the case, go and vote in Sajid Premadas as the Prime Minister and 113 members at least to give you all a simple majority in Parliament? That's subjective as well, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I don't have an answer to your question. I mean, however many times you ask this question, I have to give the same answer. I mean, look, people know who their representatives are. They know what they have done, So therefore, it is up to them to sort of determine who they want to pick from the lot that is presented. So they have a choice. So there are, if you take, for instance, the district that I'm running in, Colombo, there are 22 members in the list. Each party has got 22 people. So the voter can certainly pick the ones who they believe are clean. So that is the beauty of democracy, right? So they have the opportunity to send to Parliament people who are not thieves.
Now, addressing a group of people in Chavakacheri, Dr. De Silva, last Wednesday, the leader of the Samagi Jana Balawege, that is Sajid Premadasa, told that under his supervision, a development task force would be established. And then 3 days in Kilnochi, he mentioned that he wants to give a fiscal stimulus package to the people in Sri Lanka, as well as to assure 20,000 rupees per family. And then he also said that he would reduce fuel prices immediately, and this grant would be made within a week. And then he went on to say that the 13th Amendment to the Constitution is something that he wants to go beyond as far as the country is concerned. Are these national issues right now in the country? When you are the Prime Minister of the country, mustn't you think about national issues per se and not things that would just give you and grant you a few extra votes at an election?
I disagree with you completely. I mean, I agree with Dr. Vikramabahu Kannada when he talked about minority rights. Isn't that an issue that we need to address? And are you saying that it is not a national issue? Are you saying that Sajid Premadasa shouldn't be talking about the 13th Amendment? Are you saying that it is irrelevant in this election? I don't think so. I mean, like he said, there's a fundamental imbalance in our society. So it is easy to pander to the majority and try to get votes by saying, look, you know, I will only focus on you people and forget about the rest. Well, whether it is the UNP or the SJB, we don't disagree on that position. We believe the same. To us, all ethnicities, all religions deserve the same treatment. And therefore, what Mr. Premadasa, I did not hear him say that. You say he said it. I agree with him. I endorse what he said. And even Prime Minister Rajapaksa, when he was president, or before he was president, I believe, I can't recall exactly when, said that he was going to go beyond 13th Amendment. He said 13 plus, right? So when it suits you to talk about 13 or 13 plus, and when it doesn't, to ignore it is not the policy of the SJB, certainly, and I believe that is the same with
So
the
why
UNP.
did you leave us?
Huh? No, that's another matter, Doctor, that's another matter. I don't disagree with the policies of equality and markets of, you know, we can resolve that later. But the 20,000 per family, I think it's a good question because it has been used as a political football, you know, being used to sort of slander Mr. Premadas and make him look, you know, sort of a joke. But really what he's talking about is that a minimum of 20,000 is the bare minimum, right? I mean, this is a simple calculation. You just
but
go
does
on.
the mechanics work? Does the mathematics work when it comes to granting this 20,000 rupees? Because Dr. Godeheva in his opening remarks said there is no money with this government.
See,
and then you say that you can give this 20,000 rupee grant. And it seems to me that you all have a magic wand in your hand when it comes to such grants.
Listen, I think you misunderstood, and I think most people have misunderstood. Let me try to clear the misconception here. Mr. Premadasa never said that he wants to give 20,000 people to every family forever. All what he said is that the minimum requirement of 2,030 kilocalories per day for a month works out to 5,000 rupees per person per month, and that you can go on your iPad and check out on the website of the Department of Census and Statistics. We know that the average family size in Sri Lanka is 3.9. So 4 into 5,000 is 20,000. It's not a complicated, calculation to make. So what he is saying is that if the income has fallen by 50%, then perhaps they will have to be given 10,000. So they come to a minimum of 20,000. If the income has fallen by 25%, you give them 5,000. They'll come to a minimum of 20,000. The 20,000 is a fixed figure. And that is the responsibility of the government of the day to ensure that people are able to, afford the absolute basic necessities to survive.
But I still don't understand. There are 1.7 million people living in Sri Lanka below the poverty line, and most of them are obtaining some of the benefits from the government.
Yeah.
And there are 600,000 more on the waiting list to get some of the benefits as well. So cumulatively, it stands at 2.3 million. the number of individuals in this net. So you're saying only 20,000 people. I'm trying to figure out how did you all arrive at this 20,000 families figure?
No. I mean, if we are going to try and figure out how half the population in this country deserve samurdhi and only 5% of the people are poor, there is some fundamental problem in that calculation, right? So people who get samurdhi, some of them don't deserve samurdhi. 40% of the people who get samurdhi don't deserve samurdhi. People who deserve samurdhi don't get samurdhi. They've been completely politicized. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a family of 4 requires 20,000 rupees worth of food to survive, and that's based on the statistics given by the Department of Census and Statistics. But what I was going to say is that there was a recent survey by UNICEF which showed that in the last so many months during the COVID disaster, that 30% of children under the age of 15 or something, didn't have sufficient food.
Yeah.
Right? So they were malnourished during this period. And also, to add to your question, if you look at the deciles of the population of Sri Lanka, the distribution, you will see the first 5 in terms of income, meaning almost 50% of the people in Sri Lanka don't earn enough to meet the expenditure every month.
I'll come back to you momentarily when we open the floor for questions from our journalists. Today we have Jayama Ratnakar joining us tonight on the show. Finally, I want to drag my attention to Dr. Anil Jayant, the candidate of the National People's Power. Dr. Jayant, interestingly, when the 3 main political parties, UNP, SJB and the SLPP are talking about manifestos, how to govern the country, the NPP is busy telling the people of Sri Lanka, give us representation in parliament because we want to be the watchdog. Why must people appoint the NPP or the JVP-led NPP to parliament just because they want to have people representing parliament to be their eyes and ears? That can be done by the TNA, that can be done by the UNP, that can be done by the SLPP, and that can be done by the SJB as well. Why NPP? Something is wrong in this whole equation, isn't it, Dr. Anil Jayant?
Okay, just before just answering to that part, like I would like to tell you that it is not that we have come out with our own policies. Actually, we prepared very comprehensive policies that covers, within 8 sectors, how best a country could be developed. With lots of effort, we took almost 2 years to do this thing. And when we take the last presidential election and this general election, so there are no much economic dynamisms have changed. So more or less, so we adopt these policies. So I'll explain this thing. So nevertheless, just coming back to your question, when they talk about their policies and why are we going to be the watchdog there? First of all, I would like to tell the general public that if you are ready to give us power even at any moment, so we are ready to take that power and the best secure the public interest based on national, the policies which safeguard the public interest, of course, without having any conflict of personal interest. But we need to take into account the practical situation. As of now, so it is clear that so though 3 different camps are coming and contesting for the general election, it is more likely that they follow the same policies. So there are no distinct policy differences. So they have been following all these policies, especially after 1970s, almost 4 decades. And where is our country left? If you just take a snapshot of the balance sheet of Sri Lanka, now it is really debt-ridden country. And not only that, so just couple of days. So according to World Bank, categorizations of countries, Sri Lanka was downgraded from upper middle income category to low middle income category. But we have been doing so many things. So we are using lots of loans, so projects, and all the time, whatever the party who is in power, they say that, so we are the best, we did it, not the previous government, and they hail themselves. But if you take a cross-section of the country, as a trend, country is just going downwards, towards the the pitfall. So at the end of the day, so huge income disparity is seen among general public. Even though GDP per capita is 4,000 US dollars, 4,000 something, average family income is not that. It does not suit. Even if you take the regional disparities, Western province and other provinces, you see a huge difference between Western province income and other provinces. So likewise, so it has brought up to such a bad shape and a situation. So that is why we urge general public in this situation, no matter what the proportions of the representation in the parliament from these three camps, finally it is more likely that there is a great probability that they may join hands to work the same agenda.
Now, I'm trying to figure out, Dr. Anil Jayant, Andrew Kumar Dissanayake is going to be the Prime Minister if the NPP forms a government on the 5th of August. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It depends, because the Prime Minister is not elected by the general public. It has to be elected by the Parliament. It depends. Therefore, I cannot say.
So whoever wins the majority of consent from the President and the President wishes that this person commands the majority in Parliament, Andrew Kumar Dissanayake may or likely will be appointed as the Prime Minister of the country.
Yeah, of course, he is well deserved because he has all these the qualifications to do this thing.
No, I'm trying to figure out. Now, Andrew Kumar Dissanayake served as the Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Land Irrigation in the 2004 SLFP-led Janata Vimukti Peramuna joint government under President Chandra Kumar Tunga. They could not even hold on to that for a considerable amount of time. And then you say that your leader should be appointed as the Prime Minister of the country. Doesn't match, does it?
It's factually not correct. One thing I have to clarify first. I am not a member of JVP, but we work with JVP,
the larger alliance of the NPP.
So I represent national intellectual organizations within NPP. But we have very close association and contacts, and we work with JVP. But even during the Andrew Kumar Disanayake's tenure in this the ministry portfolio, it is not true that he could not hold on to this thing. Actually, he served best. He never misappropriated a single cent of this country or which the money belonged to general public. And he showed a good politics. So where he could not conflict his personal interest, always he upheld the public interest. For instance, so some of the institutions which came under his ministerial portfolio, and he was able to really go ahead with gigantic work of restoration of the tanks. In addition, especially in the land ministry, some of the provisions, the budget allocations given to the minister, as
underhand
he used. Just let me in few minutes, a second. So whatever the money he saved was used and utilized for the interest of general public by buying a bus for the transportation of general public instead of thinking of his own luxury.
Underhand deals. In 2015, Someone Samarasinghe, the then leader of the JVP, I know Dr. Anil Jayant, you're not part of the JVP, however, now you are invariably part of the JVP-led NPP. So you have to answer these questions when it's directed to the JVP as well.
Sure.
So in 2015, Someone Samarasinghe, the former leader of the JVP, publicly stated that Andrew Kumar Dissanayake has hidden deals with the UNP. Now, why would anyone appoint someone like that to Parliament?
Yeah, it is pretty obvious in not only to JVP, to any political organization. Whenever the people break things or break away or have conflicts, so accusations may come, of course. So by that time, Someone Samarasinghe did not say this thing when he was the leader of JVP, I suppose, because he made this statement after breaking away from the party. But it is a fact that now I am evident. So JVP doesn't work according to such a hidden agenda. Of course, even a single member of JVP wants to do that. So the structure is not there. No one can do that.
Thank you very much.
Of course, the system would really ejected.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anil Jayant, the candidate of the National People's Power. I open the floor for questions from our journalists. On to my immediate left is first time on the show, Jamal, am I right? Yes, and also Shehan Ranatunga. Let's start off with Jamal.
Thank you, Shamir, and very good evening to you, gentlemen. My first question would be directed at Dr. Godeheva. Doctor, my question would be twofold, and before I get into the question, I will present you some statistics. And in your opening statement, you said that your government was given an empty kitty, and also you said that the country is what matters. So I will present you some statistics, but they are definitely rounded off, not accurate. So the revenue of the country is currently at 1,800 billion rupees, and out of that recurrent expenditure is 1,200 billion, and the interest on the recurrent expenditure is said to be 900 million. And when you consider those two figures, Dr. Gotaheva, there is an outgoing expenditure of 2,100 billion rupees and a gap of 300 million. So as you said, if the kitty is empty at present, and you being a candidate from the Gampaha district, one of the most populous districts in the country, Dr. Gotaheva, what would your action plan be, and the larger plan of the government, if you are able to establish one, to bridge this gap, first of all, and also to serve the people in your district as well as the country as a whole?
See, in any country like ours, there's always a budget deficit. The income is less than the expenditure. That is why there's a budget deficit. Then you have to adopt different mechanisms to bridge that gap. Most of the time, it is based on loans that you borrowings from the local or foreign markets. But if you look at the debt situation in the country over the last 5 years, it has gone up significantly. In 2015, the national debt of this country was about 7,400 billion Sri Lankan rupees. That went up to about almost 13,000 billion by end of 2019. The debt to GDP ratio went up from 71% to about 86%. So it's not advisable to go and borrow anymore, but sometimes you can't avoid that also in a situation like that. So in short term, you might have to borrow to bridge this gap, because you have to invest. Recurrent expenditure you have to manage anyway, but at the same time you can't forget about the investment also. Yes. As I mentioned earlier, certain projects have to be completed. Even if you don't go for new mega projects, the existing ones, to get the best utilization of those, you have to complete it. So you'll have to borrow to complete those things. But in the long term, you need to invest in what will increase the productivity of the country, and that will generate money from the private sector as well as the public sector. So President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, during his candidacy, presented a policy plan which covers various segments in the economy which he is going to focus on, and once he implements those things, gradually the economy will kickstart.
Right. Shyam?
Dr. Gotaheva, you were talking about income and this budget deficit. How are we going to bring in foreign direct investments to Sri Lanka? Particularly now you talk about the COVID situation. It has impacted businesses and economies. What plan does your government have to bring in foreign direct investment?
See, foreign investors come to a country, of course, to make money. They must find the conditions conducive for their businesses. So the first thing that they'll look for is policy consistency. When there's a set of policies which are consistent, they prefer to come to that country. And the country must be stable, and the country must be safe. And particularly given the current context in the world, where most part of the world is affected by terrorism, and then when you look at COVID, most of the countries are affected. Sri Lanka in many aspects is a safer country for foreign investors. So if you can create that environment where it is safe, and the policies are consistent, and also policies must be favorable for their business expectations, it can be done. It has to be done, and without foreign investment, you can't go for the development that you are looking for. So that is why we are trying to stabilize the economy and allow these people to come and invest.
There's been a lot of printing of money, hasn't there, Dr. Gotaheva?
See, when you need money to run the government, what are the ways in which the government can make money? See, in a situation like this COVID-19 situation, when there are expenses, there are only 3 ways the government can make money. Either the government has to tax people, or government has to borrow, or government has to print. So in the economic management, from time to time, the governments have to adopt different policies. I'm sure even Dr. Harsha would agree with me. There are times at which you have to print money.
Dr. Harsha, do you agree with this?
Well, to an extent that as long as it is within limits.
Talk to us about FDIs, Dr. Harsha. How is an SJB government going to bring in foreign direct investments? Keeping in mind that under the Yahapalana government, there was a lot of failures when it comes to FDIs.
Well, I mean, first you need to understand why a foreign investor may want to come to Sri Lanka. A, do we have the resources, the natural resources for them to utilize to produce, manufacture goods? Two, do we have a large market where what they produce can be sold? Or three, do we have access to larger markets where they can produce and perhaps export? I don't think 1 and 2 really apply. 3 is the one we need to leverage on. If you go back in history, you know, I love to tell the story about Parakramabahu the Great in the 12th century. You know, he was a trader king. He fought wars with neighboring countries because he created an emporium in Sri Lanka. We have always succeeded when we built bridges with neighboring countries and beyond. The world is going to create wealth in the coming decades in this region. The littoral states of the Indian Ocean, or put the Pacific Ocean together, we can call it the Asian Ocean. And we are situated at the right place. So therefore, the opportunities that we have will only come to sort of reality if we open our minds to the rest of the world. If we don't think of sort of a restricted, constricted, sort of a, you know, economy where things are closed, walls come up, high duties and so on, that may serve a short-term political purpose, because people love to hear when politicians say, I will protect everything here, I will increase taxes so foreigners cannot come here and sell. But if you go beyond the rhetoric and think, you know, what are our opportunities, it will be opening up and linking up with the world. So therefore, for foreigners to invest in here, the reason will have to be that we have access to the rest of the world, right? But I want to, can I say something else?
Yeah, no, I want to shift gears a little bit now because we were talking about FDIs and all that.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears with regard to previous government performance. But Dr. Harsha, I'll give an opportunity to sum up in 30 seconds, and then I will pose some questions to you on previous government performance and how the UN peers, the Samagijana Balavega, SLPP, as well as the NPP will counter those allegations to take on this debate forward.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is what Nalaka said about printing money. Yes, I agree. There are 3 ways in which, you know, you can bridge the deficit, you know, tax, borrow or print. But print has to be very carefully managed. And if you have too much money chasing too few goods, what invariably happens is inflation, domestically meaning prices go up, externally meaning the value of the currency will fall. So even though the rupee in terms of the dollar in terms of the rupee, you know, hit 200 but has come back down to 185, 186, that is a temporary thing. That is because imports have been essentially blocked. You cannot import things to this country. So therefore the demand for the dollar has basically disappeared. But as the country picks up again, as private sector credit improves again, as people borrow, the demand for imports will rise. As that happens, and if there is more money than necessary in the market as printed money, liquidity is very high, then you are going to see nothing but increasing in domestic prices and depreciation of the currency. So that is what you need to be careful about when you just start the printing press.
Let me pose a question to Dr. Vikramarka with regard to the central bank bond controversy, speaking about previous government performance. Moving forward, Dr. Karunaratne, how sure are you, under the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe, that such another bond controversy will not take place in Sri Lanka, pulling us by our feet and making the economy somewhat go in a very bitter memory lane?
So, what is the result of this investigation into this corruption by the parliament or by the legal authorities? What is the result? Have they given some verdict or say? Otherwise, we have to believe that the prime ministers in the past history, they have taken money out of in the same fashion.
No, but given the fact that the UNP couldn't do anything about it for the last 4.5 years, you can't expect the present government led by the SLPP to do something in just 7 months, can you?
Yes. No, I'm saying that these are matters to be carefully investigated by the parliamentary committees.
So it took 4.5 years to carefully investigate something of this sort, and they couldn't come up with a culprit? That's a bit of a far-fetched answer, isn't it, Dr.
They must have taken money out because...
Who has taken money out?
Prime Minister can take money out if there is a serious situation of crisis.
No, I still don't understand. Are you implying that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe took money out?
Yes.
For what reason? From the central bank?
To central bank, because there is a political crisis, and to use it to...
So in 2015, February 23rd, when the central bank convened...
In the history of parliamentary in my country and other countries, you find political leaders taking money out.
So I want to pose a question, Dr. Harsha De Silva. Quite interesting, Dr. Harsha. The Prime Minister took money out because there was a political crisis. Now that is the first time that I'm hearing something of that sort surrounding the central bank bond controversy. Now you were a part of that government, and you were holding key portfolios, and you were the deputy to Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as well. Did he take money out for...
Perhaps Doctor being very honest.
The investigation taken up by the parliament showed that
no, but let's ask
past prime ministers up to...
No, I was referring to...
All of them have done the same...
No, but... Right, Dr. Harsha, quite interesting. The Prime Minister took money out because there was a political crisis. Now, that's the first time that I heard that analogy of the central bank.
That's what we always suspected.
No. First of all, I was not the deputy to the Prime Minister. First of all, that.
Not at that time. But
when I started talking about, I was the deputy minister to the Minister of National Policies. That's what my...
And I must say that you came on Face the Nation and said that this was a mistake done by the part of the Prime Minister at that time, and it needs to be investigated immediately.
And you know what?
To you,
right. So I was put to Siberia. I was taken out of my safe zone. I was put into the foreign ministry. But that's okay. I learned a lot in the foreign ministry. But that's another matter. But I don't believe that what Dr. Vikram Bahu said is not what you are trying to sort of create here, that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe took money out of the central bank to resolve some political crisis. I don't think that's what he meant. I mean, because
Dr.
I'm baffled.
Is that what you meant? Because that's what I
said. I said he has taken money out of for particular
but that's
purpose.
Not his own personal money.
And the previous prime ministers also used the same mechanism to take out money.
But that's a startling
when they need.
I mean, with due respect to, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, right? I completely disagree with Dr. Karunaratne that Prime Minister Wickremesinghe, went and took money from the central bank. I mean, that's not what, I mean, investigations would have then proven that he took money out of the central bank.
No, but Dr. Harath, it's very
And
interesting.
then, what else are you saying? He's hiding or made it for personal purpose?
No, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, are you saying, doctor, that, you know, Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe went to the central bank and took money from the central bank? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes, so on purpose.
I mean, I mean,
Somebody had taken out money.
No, but you being now a UNP member, Dr. Vikrama Harath, I think this is news to everyone who's watching the show tonight. But you being a member of the UNP now and also the leader of the Navasama Samaj Party, you have criticized this action at the central bank for many, many years. And now you're saying that the Prime Minister took this money for his own benefit or to revive the country's economy or whatever it is.
Not
that you're trying to say.
I have said that Prime Ministers in our past history in Sri Lanka also and others made use of this method of taking out money from the central bank to use it for a political purpose.
Yeah, but what is
no,
the purpose?
I think
wait a
we are
minute.
mistaken. Are you talking about money printing?
No, taking out and
The central
keeping
bank
it,
bond
and
controversy.
then-
I'm
so,
again mentioning this.
Using it on a political purpose.
But how can the Prime Minister use money from the central bank for a political purpose when the central bank of the country is envisaged to govern the country's monetary as well as the fiscal policy?
That is how it happened.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment.
You must ask the person
I'm just going to park that
involved.
for the moment,
So
Dr. Harath.
I am saying this. Let the investigations come out with the truth of this.
So I'm going to park that aside for the moment because I want to move my attention to Dr. Nala Gudeheva, the candidate of the Sri Lanka Pozhana Peramuna. Dr. Gudeheva, interestingly, we are speaking a lot about the central bank bond controversy, and one of the reasons that Dr. Harsha De Silva may or may not agree with me was one of the reasons for the fall of the government in the 2019 presidential election is the central bank bond controversy, because even every Tom, Dick and Harry in every nook and cranny in Sri Lanka knew what the central bank bond controversy was. And we were, as an organization, media network, highlighted every aspect of this at that time. Dr. Gudeheva, let's park that also for a side for a few minutes for the moment. Let's talk about the pump and dump deals that took place in 2011. Let's talk about the stock market bubble that we were talking about, and where Dr. Harsha De Silva came on the media with graphs and showed how the bubble was created. Let's talk about your tenure as the SCC chairman. Let's talk about your tenure as the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation chairman, where the Lanka Hospitals deal came through at that time. So all this was also corruption in a way, because you can't, we know for a fact that intention cannot be proven, but all this is corruption one way or the other, isn't it?
What's the point? Can you elaborate?
What is,
I didn't see anything that
no,
you are
so
talking
the question is, we saw the central bank bond controversy taking...
No, you're coming to the pump and deal.
The pump and dump.
Let's
So
talk about that. Let's talk about that. You asked the question straight.
Yeah, so the question is very simple. So 2011, there was also a Securities and Exchange Commission flaw, the Colombo stock market being bloated. Pump and dump deals took place during the Mahinda Rajapaksa time, isn't it?
First of all, I'm very grateful that you asked this question, and I hope you'll ask the second question also. Let's start with pump and dump.
Dr.
Let's start with
Trust me, I would.
the pump and dumping.
Yeah.
See, what happened was, when the war ended in 2009, very few people were operating in the Colombo stock market. I reckon it is something like 52,000, 100,000 people at most. Only very few people were knowledgeable about the mechanics of the stock market. Then after the war, the market started going up. It was a huge rise, and by February 2011, it was reaching some, if I remember correct, something like 6,500 SPI indicator. At that time, only very few people knew how to deal in the market. The rest of followers. And I remember, I was not in the stock market. This is one thing we have to understand. Many times people talk about this pump and dump era and try to relate it to me. Sorry, I was not there. I came into the stock exchange in 2012, July, long after pumping and dumping era was over. Many people misunderstand this. I was the chairman of SEC from 2012, July until 8 January 2015. So this 2011 period, I was not there. We were all bystanders. We were just witnessing what was going on. Few people knew about the market mechanics. The others were following. So whenever somebody comes and buys stocks, let's say a known character, I can't name people, let's say Mr. A known market investor goes and buys. And the word goes around. And even papers publish that he has bought stocks for this company. And everybody else follows and starts buying. Right? And the prices go up. The fellow dumps the shares and he makes a huge amount of money. The poor people lose money. The only answer to that is, one, you stop this communication by media and the other people that somebody is buying. In other countries, that's not allowed. The regulators didn't control that. Second thing is you educate the general public how to deal in the stock market. That also wasn't done. So when I came to the stock market as chairman in 2012, that is what I concentrated on. I started educating the public. I started educating the public on the pitfalls in the stock market and how to make money in a decent way. That is why between 2012 July until 2014, not a single acquisition. To date, I mean, Yahapalana government was in existence for 5 years. They were looking for various ways to find faults with that. To date, not a single acquisition by the period that I managed. So pump and dump era. No, let me finish. Yeah. Pump and dump era was 2011 period, and that was very much due to the ignorance of the people.
So at the time you were the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission between 2012 July to 8th January 2015, Dr. Gudeva, as you correctly mentioned. Were you not a board director of any of the public-owned companies in the island?
I resigned. When I became chairman of SEC, I resigned from the public listed companies that I was on a board.
And there was no interest whatsoever?
From 2012 until during my tenure, I'm so glad that you're asking these questions. During my tenure, I didn't hold a single position in a listed company. I didn't trade a single stock during that period.
So the allegation leveled by the UN peers at that time about insider trading, because insider trading is a word that we use for the central bank bond controversy as well. So the insider trading allegations leveled at the then government, which now you are contesting under the President Mahinda Rajapaksa's era, is all nonsensical, and there is no ground to it. There was no bloating of stocks, so on and so forth.
This country, one of the biggest problem, probably due to our education system, is that people don't analyze when somebody makes a complaint. People just believe what people say. When you listen to gossip and you start believing, right? Now, all these things that you're talking about was related to a different era. That was 2011-2012 period. Yes, during that period, there was a stock market collapse. Yes, there were many issues. There were complaints about insider dealing, 2012 July until 2014, not a single case.
No, Dr. Deva, you're not getting my question.
No, I need to clarify this.
You're not talking about 2012, 2015.
No, this is my opportunity.
That is out of the equation. But we're talking about the 2011. The Mahinda Rajapaksa government was embroiled with corruption. That is the question, nothing else.
No. We are talking about stock market. Let me explain. It's good for the general public to know. Yeah. Good for you also to know, right?
No, I investigated the matter in 2011 and 2012. So I have a lot of knowledge about stock market behavior.
Let me explain something that many people don't talk about. Many people don't. See, in a mature stock market, there are laws to deal with pump and dump, insider dealing, etc. But SEC didn't have sufficient laws to deal with the issues. Sometimes we saw the issues, but we have to work within the legal framework, the laws that are available to you, right? So that is why we tried to bring in a new act. In 2015, 2014, we amended that so that we can deal with this. And sometimes I see you are doing something wrong. I know that you are doing something wrong, but I can't do anything because the laws available to me is not sufficient to take action on you. So you have to change that.
That is what Dr. Godev, the people also are facing right now. When they know that someone has done wrong, but the court of law has not proven them guilty.
That's exactly the
point.
point.
As a result of that...
Shamir, that's exactly the point why we tried to change the act. We brought in a new act. 2014, we were all ready. Even the Aegis department had given the consent. But for 5 years, they just ignored that.
So 2014, Dr. Harsha De Silva, they brought in an act and you all have not acted on it. And Dr. Godev also leveled an allegation at the UNP government at that time, saying that you all were abusing people and harassing them because you all want to take the upper hand, and nothing prevailed to be justifiably against the individuals who were embroiled with scandals at that time. So you have a few points to answer, and then I will pose another question to you about controversies surrounding the UNP government, which you were also part of, Dr. De Silva.
First of all, I must say I didn't quite understand what Dr. Vikram Bahu Karnat was saying, right? So therefore, I don't know how to sort of answer the question you posed. So I just want to clarify that, right? But I must say this strongly, that all wrongdoers in that controversial bond transaction and transactions must be brought to book. And whoever the next government is must do that, right? And that is my firm belief, and I stand resolutely behind what I just said. Now, moving to the pump and dump issue, I'm not going to delve much into this, but only point out that the forensic audit report that was sort of released a few months ago very clearly shows in its 3rd volume exactly what happened. I am not talking about, and I agree with Nalaka that there was a lack of education, a lot of people got played. I've visited rural areas where they said, look, I sold my 2-wheel tractor, purchased stocks, thinking that, you know, these prices will go up, but then they crashed. Now, neither do I have the stocks, nor do I have my 2-wheel tractor, right? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking specifically about the dumping on the Employees Provident Fund. That is the issue. So, while a farmer in Hambantota may not know about the stock market, and they may not be sort of sophisticated enough to do analysis and determine which stocks to buy and which stocks not to buy, or at which price they should buy, the Employment Provident Fund, on the other hand, had and continue to have professionals in the investment departments. So they cannot be taken for a ride by some front runner. So therefore, the dichotomy must be made between intelligent investors and unintelligent investors. So that's all I'm going to talk about that. And I agree with Nalaka once again that the Securities and Exchange Commission law must be strengthened. And he's right that, you know, sometimes you know somebody is doing wrong, but the provisions of the law doesn't allow you to take action. So it is the insider trading that we are talking about, whether it happened in the stock exchange or whether it happened in the bond market, really doesn't matter, because in the bond market also it was dumped on the EPF, in the stock market also it was dumped on the EPF. So in both cases EPF is connected, and in both cases
it's public money, workers' money, and certain individuals are connected. So that's why I'm going to stop at that.
But I want to talk about
abuse and harassing of individuals attached to the previous government.
Yeah, I mean,
during your time in office, the UNP government.
I mean, personally, I don't, that's not my policy, right? I don't throw mud at people. I don't want to. We have, we are all professionals, and we need to have a a debate both inside parliament and outside that is relevant to the people. At the end of the day, what we all want to do is to serve the people. We have come here to do that. And if people are using political power to harass other people, just so that, you know, they put those people in difficulty because you have power, that is never to be sort of done, and it is wrong, and I don't accept that. Right?
So you
but
say
some
that
people
there was
do
a
that.
mistake on the part of the UNP government at that time.
No, what I'm saying is using political power to harass other people is wrong. Whether my party did it, or whether his party did it, or whether his party did it, that's wrong. What is wrong is wrong. I mean, there are always, you know, stipulated mechanisms by which you sort of, if there is some allegation of fraud, then you investigate.
But that's very unfair, Dr. Harsha Silva. If people are being taken to task just because of their political affiliation, and if that happened during the UNP regime, and we've seen this happening under the UNP regime for some time as well, in the 90s, in the 1991, 1992, we've seen this happening in the past. So this is something like which is embedded in the blood of the UNP, isn't it?
No, that is very unfair, because even now, right, if you listen to Rajitha Senaratne or Partli Champaka or Ranjan Ramanayaka or anyone else who's been sort of, you know, given a hard time, that's exactly what they will say, right? That they have been harassed for political reasons just because they were opposed to the Rajapaksa
So, Dr.
regime.
Budeva, you have a point to answer there. Now, Dr. Harsha De Silva did say that he accepts if there was a mistake from their part, and that did not directly say a mistake from their part, but said if it's wrong, it's wrong, and there should not be any political victimization of that sort. But he then levels an allegation at your party, SLPP, for taking to task Rajitha Senaratne, Partli Champaka Ranawaka, and also Ranjan Ramanayaka. Would you also accept the mistake from the part of the SLPP?
No, first of all, I must say Dr. Harsha De Silva is an honorable politician. I don't think he was involved in any of those things, and I don't think he will be even in the future. But in his party, there were many others who were directly involved in this suppression of the views of the other people and using political power to abuse. The three names that he mentioned, one of them probably, yes, even he, all three of them were involved in that. I normally don't like to mention names, but since you mentioned the three names, those three gentlemen were directly involved in using the political power to abuse people and bringing various cases against us. Now, for example, take the particular case that you mentioned about me, right? That I can talk about that. No, there's a case in the high courts. We ask who is the complainant, and in the high courts, the state council has to admit there's no complainant. You can't have a high court case without a complainant. Right? Then you find the complaint has come from the Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister's office is not police. Only there has to be a complaint. The complaint has to be investigated by the police. Only then you can go and file a case. Now, in this case, no. What I'm saying, look at this case. I'm just giving one example.
No, but to move on, Dr.
No.
Tit for tat. So
no. That I'll explain. So what they did was they formed a committee inside Prime Minister's office, illegal committee, and they identified people whom they want to attack. They identified people
appointed by Anukumar Dissanayake.
Of course he was there.
Okay.
Of course he was there.
Right. So I'll come back to you on that.
Of course he was there.
In a moment.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was there, Champaka Ranawaka was there, Rajitha Senaratne was there, Anukumar Dissanayake was there, all those people.
Next to Temple Trees,
all those people were there. They were the so-called committee who were targeting people and creating cases. They instructed the so-called illegal FCID to go after people, look for cases. In my case, every single institute I have chaired, they went and investigated. They couldn't find anything. They finally came up with this bogus case, which now former Justice Sri Lanka Tilakavardhan has discharged from all accusations in a domestic inquiry.
No, but tit for tat. Let's talk about that.
And their case, what are these three cases? In many cases, they were looking for a problem. They went and investigated every institute looking for a problem. These are cases which are on the surface. Everybody knew.
But let me just interrupt with your permission here. There is a Facebook, something, WhatsApp that we all got a little while ago. Mr. Rajapaksa's in remand custody. and on some flimsy explanation due to some COVID or something like that, he was let go. Now he is appearing in the SLPP political stage. So there, I don't see the justice that is supposed to be equal to everyone. Where Rajitha Senaratne is put behind for 4 weeks because of a press conference, and this gentleman, you know, who's been accused of large-scale corruption, is appearing with the president's, Prime Minister's son at a political rally in support of the SLPP.
I'll come back to Dr. Gudeheva. I want to pose a question to Dr. Anil Jayant as well. Andrakumar Dissanayake was involved in this committee that was targeting politicians.
What's that committee?
The committee appointed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe then to investigate allegations of corruption during the Rajapaksa era. Just to bring to your light, Dr. Anil Jayant. And Andrakumar Dissanayake was member of this committee. And I again drag your attention to the statement that was made by Someone Samar Singh in 2015, saying that your leader, Andrakumar Dissanayake, took favors from the UNP. So that does make some connection. There seems to be a connection, isn't it? So you can't rule that out. Why would Andrakumar Dissanayake be appointed to a Prime Minister's committee if that's the case?
No, in fact, as far as my knowledge is concerned, it is not a committee simply appointed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Actually, you know, there were lots of allegations against the then government run by Mahinda Rajapaksa for large-scale corruptions, and actually they are not simple corruption. So they were called financial crimes. So why they are called financial crimes? So whenever you steal public money, that is tantamount to crime. So that is why those allegations were made. Then, in order to simplify and smooth this functioning, a special committee was appointed. So it is a legal entity. So, but it is not empowered with any powers to take action, just to simplify the process. So legal procedure was carried out by the Attorney General and the judiciary. So that is the responsibility. So if something is wrong of making such appointments, or the Attorney General or the judiciary has done, so that could be investigated. So in connection with this appointment, and nowadays saying that, so it is, those committees were appointed to take political revenge, or did it to harass people. Now another committee has been appointed by the president. So especially a complaint made by an individual. In politics, you need to very carefully understand, actually the main point is there, whenever a politician is appointed or a political device is appointed, automatically, inevitably, conflict of interest is there, agency is there. So whenever conflict of interest is there, agency is there, it is more likely that whoever who have political power and they appointed to these positions.
Why did Andrakumar Dissanayake step down from this committee subsequently?
No, basically, so it was just appointed for a certain period of time to streamline these things. Once his task is over, of course, he followed all these things because he did all these things in the best interest of the general public. That is why even the recent commission, whenever Andrakumar Dissanayake appeared there, so I am pretty much willing to come to this particular commission and give my evidence and reveal the general public how general funds were, the money belongs to general public was swindled and stolen. So he is ready to bring the perpetrators into book. So that is very clear, no matter what opportunity is given, what mechanism is given. So JVP and NPP and our political structure and ideology is not to gain personal benefits, but to serve the general public. So that is why we don't have any fear of appearing in front of any commission, because we have never ever told any lies, even the facts. We have not given any, accused others without having evidence. For all the charges leveled against corruption and malpractices, we have evidence. So let me just tell you, out of the facts that just arose from our discussions and what is available in the general public, media and all everywhere, it is a fact that now this country is really driven by corruption. Corruption has become key because that is inherent to this particular system. corruption is not...
When you say corruption, who is more corrupt, the UNP or the SLPP-led parties or the UNP?
I don't say who is,
or the,
like, so that has to be decided by the general public. But I do not say that it is something wrong with general individual. It is a system, it is a network. It is not only individuals, not only parties. They are connected with institutions. They are connected with the legal systems, institutional setup. Not only other appointed bodies, sometimes commissions. You see how many commissions are being appointed. That is also part and parcel of this corruption. So just tell me, so whether a single person has been brought into books and really,
so that's a point. That's a very good point.
That has to be seriously taken. Even money wasted for this commission should be investigated. So recently, just give me 1 minute. Recently, now everyone talks about just before the presidential election, MCC was a big debate, like a huge buzz in the society. So they argued, those who now in the power argued that once the MCC is signed, the country would be really divided and America would come and just take Sri Lanka. But now they keep very silent. And if you look at, of course there are so many bad consequences of this MCC in terms of politics, in terms of economic, in terms of social issues. But unfortunately, general public and even intellectuals do not take these things into debate.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Instead, we talk about petty things.
So much of committees have been appointed. Initially, first 2 weeks, when he was the president visited the RMV and said there was corruption and he wants everything to be arrested and make sure that everything is in line. Then the MCC committee that was appointed. And then the committee that was appointed look into finance irregularities with finance companies. So many committees have been appointed during the last 7 months. I think the president may go on keeping a record the way he goes to appoint committees in the future as well. So a lot of committees have been appointed. No action has been taken. Dr. Godeva?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. See, when every president needs advice from professionals on an important issue. So there's absolutely nothing wrong in appointing committee and getting advice. Every president, even in the past, have appointed committees and got advice. What is important is whether you take action or not. Whether you take action or not. Why do you say there's no action taken? Why do it's just 7 months on? How many committees have completed their decisions? MCC, yes. The decision came, the committee report came just 1 week ago. So why do you think there won't be any decision? Yes, there'll be decision.
So will the Rajapaksa government sign the MCC, yes or no?
I don't think they'll sign because the committee report very clearly says not to sign unless there are major changes to the conditions, which I don't think MCC will agree to.
So, Dr. Godeva, Viatmaga is one of the causes that you champion, and when nominations were to be given under the SLPP, 20 to 30% of the individuals who represented were supposed to get nomination. However, this did not happen, and that meant that the old parliament that the people rejected for a certain extent would have been given nominations, isn't it?
In what you are saying, there is part truth, part misunderstanding. Let me explain that. See, Viatmaga is just an organization. Not every professional in this country is a member of Viatmaga. Viatmaga is a group of people who worked with Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa for the last 4 years, creating a national policy framework to support his presidential candidacy. And the members of that, now many of those very active members are appointed to various positions in the government. Some are appointed chairpersons of government institutes, some are appointed directors, some are appointed secretaries, some were even appointed as governors, right? So only very few were picked by His Excellency to enter the parliament, or rather to contest the election. But there was a perception amongst the people that there'll be large number of Viatmaga members who will be contesting the election, which is wrong.
So there were many presidential task force appointed, and almost all of it had military officials represented. So where was these Viatmaga individuals who were the so-called professionals who helped President Gotabaya Rajapaksa? He couldn't find any of them to represent these task force, is it?
I could find many.
I would say this is what we are trying to say, that it's a fascistic situation, because this organization itself is organized on a sectarian basis, selected people from here or there, and they were trained to think in some model, and then they were later posted in various places. So it is like days of Germany under Hitler's regime. People are trained and people are organized and placed in the places where they want, and create a structure which to cut down others, put people that you need, and carry on and saying that we are cleaning the organizations or the state structure. I don't know whether my friend here is part of that, or he has been thrown out of that. But he has explained that what we believe to be the situation here, that it is now National Socialist.
Dr. Gudaheva, military individuals leading the country now.
Yes,
where are the Vietnam individuals now?
Yeah, Vietnam means it's from the professionals, so many of the so-called professionals and professionals, all those.
So where are the so-called professionals, Dr. Gudaheva?
This is Hitler did that. Mussolini did that. So they are doing that here now.
If I'm answering, retired Major General Kamal Gunnar is a Vietnam member. Dr. Sita Rampal is a Vietnam member. Mr. Nivad Kabra is a Vietnam member. Dr. Prasanna Gunasen is a Vietnam member, just to mention few of those who are in these committees. And there are several others. See, and just to expand on what, not expand, to reply to something that Dr. Vikram Bahu mentioned, see, in any country, let's say USA for example, once the president is appointed, he appoints his team members to almost, even the cabinet is appointed through from his team. He appoints his people to various other government positions. That is, he runs the country. People who understand its ideology, people who support him, are positioned in his government. So I don't think anything wrong in President Gotabaya Rajapaksa making use of people who work with him in few positions here and there.
But when he was the defense secretary to do so is not a problem. But when he's the head of state to do so,
what's wrong?
Seems to be a mismatch, isn't it?
What's wrong? Isn't Major General Kamal Gunnar suits that position? Isn't Dr. Sitaram suits that position? All those people who are given positions.
So the task force that was appointed to ensure that there is discipline in society, all the members were from the military.
No, that's a separate matter, no?
How can that be a separate matter?
No, I suppose that's a more to do with law and legal side. You are referring to this Triforces commanders and the. I haven't seen the mandate of that, so I can't comment on that. I assume that's all military people.
Yet of that, Dr. Gudaheva, unfortunately.
No.
We know that the president has appointed such a committee, but unfortunately,
so I can't comment on that because I haven't seen the mandate
of that particular committee in question. Dr. De Silva, with regard to militarization, now this is one of the claims that are made in political fora at present. What is the stand of the SJB?
You see, one needs evidence to be able to analyze the situation, right? And you must base policy on evidence. We call it evidence-based policy making. Now, if you look at evidence on how military sort of run establishments around the world have performed, you will see that the militarization starts small and it spreads. It may start with one or two individuals in one or two key positions. Then it expands. A good example is Egypt. Another example is Pakistan. How the military owns and operates maybe 1/3 of the economy, right? And when you do that, it takes away the the opportunity for folks to participate in that market economy. And when the military sort of says do, people will have to do, right? There is no competition. Now, for instance, I recall there used to be a lady who used to sell lunch packets near the parliament, some years back. During the Rajapaksa regime, the army established a eatery there. They brought the food from wherever they purchased it, Dambul, I don't know, and they started selling below the price of all the women who were selling lunch packets in that area. What happened? In a few months, all those ladies disappeared, and the army-run eatery became very popular, right? So,
And what is wrong in that?
No, so that just crowded out the enterprise, and the army took over the business. So that is just one example that we saw, right? You can extend it, expand it.
It's exactly that.
Just
what
an
we
example.
call the national socialism, no? Taking over the others' businesses and saying that.
I mean, you see, now a good example is
And in the
recently
hospitals,
rice milling. Right? We saw how the army got involved in trying to control the oligopoly in the rice manufacturing market. And we saw that they said, look, we will go ahead and do this. But ultimately, they met their Waterloo with Mr. Dudley Sirisena, and the army had to retract. That is because they were trying to deal with a very powerful and an established set of people. But keep those outliers out. But if the military takes a significant position in economic establishments, be it whether it is an eatery or a agricultural enterprise, in Pakistan and in Egypt, the military owns banks, right? Then what happens? So we don't want the military to be involved in civilian life. The military is there to protect us. The military is there to ensure that our country and our people are safe from threats within and outside of Sri Lanka. That is their job, right? They don't need to be involved in running the health ministry or the agricultural business or running hotels. That's not their job. Right? They must do what is theirs, and the civilian enterprise must be involved in.
Dr. Godeva,
in
we don't want the
markets.
military to run civilian life.
I agree. There's no disagreement on that. And even the example that he quoted, I agree. I mean, military should not come and take over the business of ordinary
But that's
people.
what they're doing right now.
No, that's not what they're doing. That would
What
have
are they doing?
No, that would have happened. Now, look at the current situation. Is military involved in any business? No. Military got involved during this COVID-19 crisis. It was a national crisis. And even the military, basically, the commander got involved, right? So he had a mechanism to support. Look at this quarantine process. If the army didn't come in to help, what would have been the situation? That was the most disciplined labor force that we had to employ in a crisis like that. I mean, given in the past, there would have been instances like what Dr. Harsha mentioned. I agree. Military shouldn't go and try to do things that the civilians should do.
So
but today, the current government, there's nothing like that. Give me any other example.
So I will take a
saying
classic example. 2015, prior to 2015, one of the reasons for the defeat of the Rajapaksa regime at that time was the centralization of funds in the Rajapaksa brothers. The kitty, as far as the Rajapaksas were concerned, were filled at that time. And that was one of the reasons, Dr. Godeva, that the Rajapaksa regime had to leave in 2015. And that was one of the reasons that Maithripala Sirisena was appointed on the 8th of January as the good governance president in the country. What he did after that is very subjective. However, that was one of the reasons. And then in 2020, we see when this crisis, COVID-19 crisis took place, you saw the president appointing his brother. Basil Rajapaksa to run the COVID-19 operation. And you may say, what is the problem in this? Because the president was very close to the brother, hence he appointed the brother. But don't forget, we were entering an election time, and the general secretary of the SLPP was Basil Rajapaksa. And did the president forget that fact as well?
I'm not the best person to answer that question, but I
But
can,
you are
I can,
part of that
I can express my opinion.
campaign now.
I can
I
express
can
my
see
opinion.
that he has
I suppose I must, Doctor, I must answer. No, this is my question, right? With all due respect. See, at that time, we were in a crisis, right? We were in a situation where the businesses were collapsing, people didn't have money, the country was locked down, and somebody had to very quickly find solutions for that. People were at home. There was no way to buy goods. There was no way to distribute stuff. And President had to use somebody whom he has confidence in, somebody who has experience. Mr. Basil Rajapaksa was a former Minister of Economic Affairs. He has experience. Amongst all the people, he was one person that President could rely on to act fast. So that
There was
unique
no one
situation.
from the Viet Bang movement who could do so?
No, there was no one from Viet Bang who could do at that job. He was a former Minister of Economic Affairs. I mean, the knowledge that he had to handle that situation, none of us had. So that was a unique situation, Ravid. I don't think we should standardize based on that.
Nobody opposes emergency intervention of people from the either organization, but to continue it, and then it becomes growth into various sections, then it becomes a fascistic state.
It's not continuing, no? That was a crisis. Crisis was handled.
No, it is continuing. That is why it is, we are discussing.
We are going for election. After it won't continue.
Dr. Godehar, the President announced some relief measures owing to the COVID situation, and one of them was this 20,000 rupees as for some of the beneficiaries. And if you do the mathematics, you are left with for 1.7 million some of the beneficiaries. You're talking about some like 34 billion rupees. And in 3 months, that's something like 102 billion rupees. In 6 months, that's 204 billion rupees. The question is, where is the money coming from? We spoke about printing money earlier. I mean, is that...
See, two things.
Yes, and we're talking about what's the action...
Are you talking about this current relief or the old system of Samurdhi?
The current situation.
Yeah. The Samurdhi was already there. No? When the crisis came, Samurdhi was already there. I don't think we should mix up that and how much money is spent and whether that is right or wrong. It's a different debate. Even Dr. Harsha mentioned about that. Some of those things that he mentioned, I also agree. That's a different issue. That comes from a previous era. We are talking about the current issue, what we went through. When the country was locked down, suddenly there was a situation, there were so many people who couldn't find money to live. Their earnings were lost. Right? So the government had to come up with a plan very quickly to support them. The original plan of the government was to come and give 5,000 rupees for a certain categories of people, which included Samurdhi people, which included disabled people, which included people who were older than 100 years, like that about 6 or 7 categories were there. But once you went and gave that money, suddenly the government realized there are so many other people who have lost their daily income, people who are self-employed, and so many other categories. So gradually government had to increase, supporting other categories also through this 5,000. And at one point you had to make a decision whether you are going to be very strict on this criteria or not. And the government took a decision not to be very strict on the criteria because there was no mechanism to verify that with the available data for the government. Because we had to rely on people to say whether you are going to give this family or not. So therefore government increased and decided to give as many people as possible who seem eligible. So originally, if I remember correct, it started with about 3 million people, finally went up to about closer to 7 million families got the money, which was not the original intention, but that had to be done at that time.
But the COVID situation has not changed. Yes, we've opened up, but still the virus remains and there's still a threat from overseas. So what about an action plan, Doctor, in terms of should your government come into power?
I think
we're talking about like a step-by-step action plan.
Right now it is very much controlled, except few cells which we know very well the problem is still there. The problem is very much controlled. Government is very confident right now that we have taken the situation under control. The next danger is when you open up the borders. Probably mid-August, we will open up the airport. Then from there onwards, we have to manage the process very, very carefully because the virus can come back again. So conducting tests there, having right quarantine, all those things have to be done perfectly. Right now, there are a lot of preparations going on, and I hope they will work according to plan.
Dr. Anil, the power centralized in one family. Is that some argument that you all can buy in as the NPP?
Again?
Power centralized in one family at present, even after the presidential election and pre or post COVID-19.
Yeah.
Is this something that the NPP can chew on?
Yes, of course. You just said something like whether NPP would be just support.
No, whether you all can support the move of power being centralized in one family, the Rajapaksa family at present.
All right. So yeah, it would be like this. Actually, after the post-COVID situation has to be very seriously taken into account and considered. No way we are going to support the broken economy or unfair economy which has just brought us to the present level and created so many miserable situations in this country. Of course, as NPP, so our force would be there in the parliament always. So any progressive measures taken or implementation, so actions would be supported. But it is unlikely that they would come out with such plans. The reason is this, so the structure of the economic model that they follow as of now is technically wrong. Why? That favors only very few. So that is the reason why in the previous case when they talk about this army intervention and economic activities, in this economic system, all the economic actors try to maximize their own utility. They simply disregard the national interest. So no matter how hard you try, automatically somewhere down the line, one person's interest would be maximized at the expense of others. So therefore, our policies are there to actually integrate the economy. So where even army can play a role in our economy. So that is not detrimental to the rest of the players. So that is how it has to be centrally planned, and all the things should be integrated. And again, now we have to understand the local and global economic dimension as well, dynamisms. So they are nothing but, unlike in the past, no economies can be developed in isolation. They work in value chains and supply chains.
So Dr. Harsha De Silva, very interesting what Dr. Anil Jain says about how they will get the military also part and parcel of the governance structure. And you are somewhat...
I meant to say that I'm not getting, but I would say that anybody in this country, in addition to their ordinary responsibilities, if they have capacities and as long as opportunities are there, our economic system and the policies create opportunities. It is a system where opportunities are created for everybody to come with their capacities, capabilities, knowledge and skills. And then only, without having, no matter how you argue, at the end of the day, if the production does not take place, so country will not have a future.
Right.
Just connecting one thing, so one point just previously connected, just to correct it. As of now, some argued that we don't have any other options other than printing money, borrowing, and the taxing. Actually, taxing and printing money are the same thing. It is taxing. Even borrowing would be all right as long as borrowing would help as an economic stimulus. But so government, as a responsible government, needs to take into account not simply borrowing, but also the long-term economic plan of production. So borrowing would be all right, warranted, accepted as long as that is used for the production. That was the missing part of their the policies. So as NPP, our policies talk about all these things, within which, with such an economic policy, only this country can be developed. Otherwise, all the time we may have to argue over and again like this. So end result would be a disaster.
Right. So Dr. De Silva, you listened to what Dr. Gudeheva spoke about the use of the military power because they are close to the president You heard what Dr. Godheva said about Basil Rajapaksa. He's the brain behind the Ministry of Economic Development back then, and why not incorporate him to the COVID-19 task force? All this seems well and good, but in the eyes of the SJB, how would you all have done things differently if you all were in power during the time of COVID-19?
First of all, I was completely against the appointment of Mr. Basil Rajapaksa as the chairman of that committee when he is the national organizer or something like that of the SLPP. Because of that appointment, that whole structure got politicized. And the local government members got involved in selecting individuals who had to be given the 5,000 rupees. It was a horrid affair. I had to fight so hard in my own electorate. In fact, one of the television stations, I think it was your own television station, in one of the news bulletins showed how they were abusing the system. As a matter of fact, this gentleman was wearing a T-shirt with the symbol of the SLPP, large as life, and distributing 5,000 rupee checks to people. So that happened because Mr. Basil Rajapaksa has a structure that works with him at elections. So therefore, the appointment of Basil Rajapaksa, the person, was not the issue, but Basil Rajapaksa, the national organizer of a political party, as the head of that committee to deal with the economic impact of COVID in the short term. I'll leave it at that. But to Dr. Anil's point, this is where we need to separate skills, right? I understand we need to bring everybody on board, but to bring a person, let's say the chairman of the Port Authority is the former commander of the army, right? Now, has that skill set that he has been able to deal effectively with the activities of the port? I mean, the first strike we saw was in the port. Now, why was that? Shouldn't you not appoint somebody who knows about port activities and a management person, a person who's good at management and with the knowledge of maritime affairs into the port? And I don't think that's a right appointment. So that's just taking one example. But going beyond, I just went on the internet and looked for this committee, what it is supposed to do, and among other things, to build a disciplined society, to create a virtuous, disciplined and lawful society, right? And one of the things that is in there is to take legal action against persons responsible for antisocial activities. Now, antisocial activities are to be decided by a 13-member team of either serving or retired military officials, right? And that's all. There are no civilians. And that committee is answerable only to the president. And it further says, I wrote this down, to issue instructions to government officials, to any ministry, department or corporation for provision of services. So that sounds very wrong, because this is ultimately a democracy. And we are running for office.
Emphasis is discipline. The discipline.
Yeah, so what does it mean? I mean, who defines discipline? Right? Who is going to discipline me? And what is the antisocial activity that I am doing in the eyes of a 13-member military unit that has the powers to direct any secretary of any ministry? I mean, how is that possible within the constitution of this country? This country's constitution provides for, management of society through a structure that has elected officials and persons appointed by the executive to do so, and not military personnel. And look, somebody decides, that somebody, I just met a kid the other day. We were in the campaign. There were a bunch of university kids, and I was talking to one of them. And he said, you know, I wrote 2 pieces to Rave. Right? And what happened? He was hauled into the police station and said, you better not do this. This is anti-government stuff. And the kid said, you know, what do you mean? He said, don't think this is the previous regime. This is not the previous regime. Don't play with us. This kid told this to me yesterday, right, with another, you know, and he posed this question, right? And I said, look, I knew Lasanta. Lasanta was my friend. I met Lasanta, you know, a few days before he was killed, right? And I told him, son, don't cross the line. You are fighting for society. You're young, you're brave, you want to write these things. But if, he said, police uncle mata kiwa. Hari? Meka karanne epa me parana aanduwa nemeyi me aluth aanduwa.
No, but Harsha, I need to give Dr. Goodhaven an opportunity to...
No, I will give him. All what I'm saying is, there is a danger. This is a slippery slope. This is a slippery slope. We mustn't take this road. Because if you give military officials to decide what a disciplined society is, and this is a subjective term, and if they are not responsible or they are not answerable to any elected official other than the president or to any secretary to a ministry or anyone else, then we have already started the slide.
Dr. what Dr. Harsha De Silva says, if there was a young aspiring journalist or aspiring reporter who's watching this show today and heard what Dr. Harsha De Silva said, shivers may have run down the spine of that individual when he heard about the statement. I hope, Dr. De Silva, you take responsibility for the statement
Absolutely.
that you made.
Absolutely.
Dr. Goodhaven, what do you have to say about that?
See, Shamir, I know this president personally. I've been working with him for the last 10 years, and particularly over the last 5 years, right? And in my opinion, he will not do anything that is unlawful, right? Even this committee or whatever, as I mentioned earlier, let's go into details and see whether he's expecting these people to work within the existing laws. I don't think he's expecting anything to step beyond. And this particular instance, it could be just a police officer overreacting, trying to impress somebody. Because as far as I know, there's no such instructions, there's no such mandate, and never heard anything like that, suppressing opposition views. I have always seen this president allowing opposition to talk, welcoming other people's ideas. So this could be an isolated incident.
Dr. Goodhaven?
I mean, the disciplinary thing is all written up, and so it can't be.
No, that's why I said let's look into details.
Dr. Goodhaven, with regard to the Rajapaksa family trying to run the country again, is there a fear of it? Because when you take a look at the nominations, you have the president's sister's son contesting the election from Matara. You have the president's elder brother contesting the elections from Hambantota. You have the president's elder brother's son contesting the elections. You have the president's younger brother contesting the elections as a prime minister. You have the president's younger brother's son contesting the elections from the Hambantota district. Then you have the president himself being the head of the cabinet right now. And I presume Basil Rajapaksa will also come into the cabinet once, if the government is hypothetically appointed in 2020 general elections. So it is somewhat of the Rajapaksa mix in this whole scenario.
People from the same party or various parties, for example?
No, they're from the same party. They're from the same party, SLPP.
Same party.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, now President's son can contest in UNP and.
But Dr. Grimma, the question is, all these individuals are contesting from the same political party, which is the SLPP.
So it's an organized mechanism.
I don't know. I'm asking Dr. Goodhaven about it.
See, if you look at the Sri Lanka's political culture, I may not personally agree to that. But there's this system of political heritage, right? In many families, we find the next generation coming into politics. The Rajapaksa family is a very, very old, generations old political family. There are so many people who are involved in politics, and even in the previous government, they were all elected members. So I don't know whether we can object to the fact they are coming into politics, being a political.
No, but the precedent that they're sitting,
it's like,
is that the right mechanism?
No, then it's just nominations, no? If people don't accept that, people can reject them. But if people accept, in a democratic country, how we can object?
So I want to give Jayamal an opportunity to pose some questions, and then I'm going to wrap the 2 rounds and then move on to the final round. Yes, Jayamal.
Yes, so this question is quite a general one, talking about corruption and accountability. So Dr. Godeva and Dr. Harsha De Silva are both representing parties that have had governments preceding the current government. And in those governments, there have been various allegations of financial fraud and various other malfeasances, misfeasances and whatnot. And what I, as a youth in the country, have realized is that the people are pushing for a clean government this time around, with intellectuals, with people who know what to do, basically giving priority to meritocracy. How would you, in your own parties, support this statement to elect officials who are clean and are qualified to do the job, in fact, and give the voters of this country a vote of confidence, rather, that such malfeasances or such corrupt activities, rather, would not occur in the future, and that a country would go towards a brighter future, rather? Dr. Harshes.
Well, it all depends on who the leader is, right? If the leader is able to stay strong and say, look, I am not going to tolerate corruption, period, then everybody else will fall in line. You know, so I believe Mr. Premadasa is going to be able to do that. There haven't been any allegations against him, and he has always, stayed clear. And he has told all of us, look, these are non-negotiable, right? So therefore, if we can all look up to him and respect him on that score, then I believe the rest of them will have to fall in line. So it is a tough call, because immaterial of whether you're green or blue or red or orange or yellow or whatever color, you know, there are people who are always trying to, take other people's things. In this case, public money. So if you're tough against your own people, or rather on your own people, then you can succeed.
So Dr. De Silva, now, during the previous regime, the Yahapalana government, which you did support over the past 5 years, the central bank bond scam happened, that is the infamous bond scam. And willingly or unwillingly, you were part of that government, and the probe into these allegations are going at a snail's pace, and it's like watching paint dry. So what would you say about that? Should the SJB establish a government after the election? How will you fast forward this? How will you intensify the procedure of investigations?
See, the forensic audit reports are out, and it goes into what happened, immaterial of which market, whether it is the equities market or the debt market, from 2011 to 2018. So the evidence is there, and it can be acted upon. So I don't know why the government is, why you have to watch paint dry.
Can I direct that to Dr. Godeva? Why are the investigations so slow, Dr. Godeva? Because we see so many task forces being appointed, but the central bank bond scam, which has been going on for quite some time, seems to be in a stagnant state. Why is that, Dr. Godeva? Or am I wrong?
I don't think so. I see it's still continuing. We hear that on news, the progress almost every week. Most of the things that were slowed down during the last 5 years, this government has to do from the beginning, no? So I don't think it is slow. It will take its own course, but we are very, very keen to see an end to that. Coming back to your corruption issue, may I answer that?
Yes, go ahead.
Corruption, my opinion, my observation, corruption is everywhere in this country. There's no two words about that. It is everywhere. It's among politicians, at high level, low level, everywhere. But remember, it is not only amongst politicians. It is everywhere, even amongst officials. Sometimes
Why do you think that is?
Sometimes the mode may be different, right? So only way you can put a stop to that is a leadership taking a very hard stance against corruption. I think President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has taken that, and he will take that. And you may agree with me, he's also another person who has an untarnished image in terms of corruption. Of course, there were many attempts, like what we said earlier, to tarnish his image, but nothing.
No, but that, Dr. Goodhaver, you can't say, because once he was appointed as the president of the country, he went to courts and cleared his name, because on the grounds of him being the president, there cannot be any prosecutions that can take place in a court of law. That happened. Are you aware?
Okay, let me qualify a different way.
Yeah, but you can't say that.
No, let me qualify in a different way. My personal opinion, my personal experience with him, is a clean man. That's subjective. You may agree, you may disagree. I've dealt with many politicians. I've dealt with this gentleman, and I know he's a clean man. And he's very keen to establish a corruption-free country. So he will not tolerate.
Rebut the points brought forward by each speaker. I want to leave this break with a quote, as Dr. Anil Jayant mentioned: power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.
පාඩම් ටික TV එකෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්න. TV1 Classroom නව පන්ති ආරම්භුණා. සතියේ සෑම දිනකම සවස 6 සිට 7 දක්වා. සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ උසස් පෙළ ගොඩ යන්න. TV1 Classroom ඉගෙන ගන්න TV බලමු.
වදින තැන්වලට වදින්න. රිදෙන තැන්වලට රිදෙන්න.
අපි News 8 News First එහෙම නෙමෙයි.
ඒක වෙනයි මේක වෙනයි.
අංගු පේරු නැති. සීරු මාරු නැති.
ඒකයි කියන්නේ හිටියොත් හොඳට හැදී කර්ෆියු ඉබේ ඇරි.
මම ගීතයක අහලා තියෙනවා. සලලිහිනියෝ නුඹ දන්නේ නැහැ. පෙම් සිතක සුව හඳුනන්නේ නැහැ. සාගරයේ බඳු පෙම් ආදරය දැනුනොත් නුඹ කූඩුවේ ඉන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ආදරය කරන්න ටිකක් දුරින් ඉඳන්. මොකද තාම බෙහෙතක් නැහැනේ.
අනේ මන්දා.
සරලවම කියනවා නම් අපි වෙනස්. ඒ වෙනසේ හැඩේ තීරණය කරන එක ඔබට බාරයි.
රටට දැනෙන නිවුස් වෙනස.
News 8.
Welcome back. This is the final round. We'll start off with Dr. Harsha De Silva, candidate of the Samika Jana Balavega. Dr. Harsha De Silva, during your tenure as a state minister, as a deputy minister, one of your greatest achievements is the 1990 suicide rate program. What would you bring to the table if elected on the 5th of August this year? What changes would you envisage as a dynamic politician?
Well, 1990 suicide rate is, of course, I can't say of course, perhaps the most efficient public service in Sri Lanka. We work 24/7 and we save lives every day. We take over 1,000 people to emergency and critical care. We just touched 600,000 people across the country since the day I started this. People laughed at me, they made all kinds of allegations, but today it has become something that you can't do without. So I'm very, very proud of our achievement, and I thank everybody who's helped me. 1,500 staff that work to make this happen. And when I left, I wrote a letter to the president. I must appreciate this also. And I told him, look, please let this run on its own. It has been put together by a bunch of professionals and it should continue. And then I met him and I made that request personally. And I must appreciate that, he has let it run on its own. And it will continue to, do good things in time to come. But that is because I was able to think outside the box. I saw a problem, there was no solution, I created one. So economic problems are also like that. That is why you need professionals in parliament, not to throw Bibles or to throw chili powder, but to debate an issue and look at the evidence and come to some sort of convergence. Because at the end of the day, whether you're on this side of the aisle, on the other side, we all go there because we care for this country. We want this country to progress, and that's why we are there, right? So therefore, our economic problems are huge. I mean, Nalika said earlier that our debt went from 6,000 billion to 13,000 billion in 5 years. But are you aware that it went from 13,000 billion at the end of December 2019 to 14,025 billion by the end of April 2020. So 1,000 billion increased in 4 months as opposed to 6,000 billion increase in 60 months. I mean, so you're looking at a very scary picture, and and this is just reported today or yesterday in the central bank's weekly report. So we need to be able to think outside the box, right? We can't think of the question in isolation, like Dr. Anil said. I believe in integration. I believe in trade. I believe that we need to build bridges with the neighboring countries and beyond. I believe that Sri Lanka has great potential, but in order to harness that, we have to be open-minded. We have to welcome trade. We got to become part of the regional production networks. We got to be able to make it easier for half-produced goods to come in and go out. We have to put more money in the Hambantota industrial zone. We need to bring companies, manufacturing enterprises that are leaving China into Sri Lanka. We have to be aggressive, and we have to innovate, and we have to be smart. So I am, like you said, running on the SJB ticket from Colombo, and I believe that I can play a role in making sure that my country gets to where it ought to get to, and I want to support.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harsh Silva, candidate of the Samuk Janabalvegya. We now move attention to Dr. Vikram Karunaratne, candidate of the United National Party. Dr. Vikram Karunaratne, what changes would you bring in if you are elected to Parliament?
Of course, I will try to resolve the fundamental problem in my country, the situation created by the nationalities and not being able to come together. As a United National Party, we have in the past attempted to give a solution, and under J.R. Javardhana we started that, and still we have not completed it because there is this Sinhala only theme carried by other party, Bandaranaike party, and it is still creating trouble. And to arrive at a consolidated peaceful situation is impossible unless we fight back. I think if you look at our surrounding, for example, in Malaysia, they have established unity among the various nationalities there, and a strong base for capital investments and to get support from other countries. So that is one example, and followed by others, Bengal and Indonesia and many other countries. So we are a poor country. We need money. We need help. That will come only if we get together and resolve this problem and get rid of the idea that there are nationalities separate and fighting each other.
Very quickly, Dr. Vikram Bahu, 77 years old now, don't want to retire?
Pardon?
77 years old now, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Don't want to retire?
I feel tired time to time, but nevertheless, there is a thing to be completed. Therefore, I am fighting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vikram Bahu, the candidate of the UNP. I now move my attention to Dr. Anil Jayant, the candidate of the National People's Power. If you were appointed through the national list, what would be the changes that the NPP and you would bring to the table?
Yes, I affirm that, certainly, that I will, not only me, even I can give an assurance for other members as well who are contesting from NPP. We will never ever misuse the mandate that you give us, no matter how big it is in the parliament. So always, we bring about our voices, we appear on behalf of the general public in order to uphold the public interest. So in that case, for all the good, the proposals, actions taken by the government for the benefit of the general public, we support. At the same time, we vehemently oppose corruption and all the malpractices or anything which is detrimental to the general public, so we can give that particular assurance. Until we are given the power. If you choose to give us the power to form a government, then of course, we would come out with a very comprehensive, clear economic the policy plan, and that would be implemented. So that would bring benefit to the nation. So without having any inequalities, everyone can live in harmony and peace in this country. So the few areas to be highlighted in our policy is, unlike in the past, now new economic policies need to address sustainability, and it shouldn't be opportunistic. So it shouldn't be fierce competition. The new world order would be cohabitation. We need to work in one plan, in harmonization. So integrated plan. So that is what we are going to do. And at the same time, and those things would address the economic aspects, environmental aspects and social aspects. Otherwise, no country or no society would be sustainable. In our past, one of our major constituents, which is JVP, so their members have shown their interest by their action, how best they could appear on behalf of general public. Actually, they were the only few among others. They were not be able to board by these corrupt network. So that is the reason why they are baselessly accused. This is not the first and this is not the last even. So it would be more in the coming days.
Thank you very
but
much.
Of course, we are always stand by the general public until we can convert this society to be a better place where we can live in harmony and peace as human. So by respecting the human dignity, that is what we are missing. So we hope that one day we would be able to bring about this thing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Jayanta. We now move attention to Nala Gudheva, candidate from the Sri Lanka Polujana Peramuna. What changes would you bring in?
See, I was in the private sector for 20 years and reached the helm in that. Like many other people at that time, I was also looking at the politicians and I was complaining why they are not running the country the way we would like to run. But only later when I got an opportunity on the invitation of His Excellency President Mahinda Rajapaksa to get involved in national service, I started actually contributing to the betterment of the country. I was given several institutes which are all doing bad, and I turned around them and made billions of rupees for those institutes. And then when the President Rajapaksa was defeated in 2015, I got involved in politics. Until then, I was not involved in politics. I helped Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa to create Vyatmag organization. I'm very proud that we were able to build an organization which build national policies. We created a set of national policies which will be his legacy from now onwards. I want to support him and make sure those policies are implemented because they are all good for people. They were all prepared after a lot of discussion, a lot of hard work. A lot of feedback were taken from the people. Now, on the request of President Rajapaksa and also former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, I'm contesting Gampa district election. And there also we have gone and studied the electorate, studied the district, and in align with the policies of His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, I have now developed a 10-fold development plan for Gampa district. There we are basically looking at the real problems of the people. Sometimes we talk many key issues, macro issues, but we forget the fundamentals. We forget the fact that real people are there at the ground level suffering. So my action plan is basically to cater to them, also in line with President's policy. And I believe we have got an opportunity to deliver that with a President who has a vision and who is very committed.
Bharat Alsaratna. Right. So looking forward for that with